What's up guys, Cwesolo here, and today we are back for another video on how to code in C#. But before we get into that, be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon right next to that so that way you won't miss out on any of my future content, and also be sure to leave a like if you found this video helpful. Anyway, let's get into this. Today we're going to be talking about generics. Generics are actually very, very cool, and they're very useful. Basically what generics allow you to do in C# is they allow you to make one method that works with all kinds of different data types. So ints, floats, strings, chars, booleans, doubles, whatever you really can want to pass into them. I think they also work with objects too, so that's pretty cool. But they work for all kinds of data types and objects, right? Because a string is an object. So yeah, you can even, like, for example, I can make it work with my student class, or if you have, other classes that you are working with, would also work with generics as well, which is very cool. This is also principally like how linked lists work. We can make one, and I could show you how those work, maybe in this video or some other video. I don't know. We'll get around to it. But I want to just show you how to basically make a genericable method and a class in this video, just to get you started. So let's get right into that. All right. So here we are in our main class. And we're going to go ahead and make a genericable method. But before we do that, we're going to need to make sure that we have this using declaration here. You're going to need to make sure that you have this. If you don't, just type in using system.collections.generic, and that'll allow you to use generics with your methods. So we're going to go ahead and make a very basic generic method. We're actually going to make two. We're going to make one where we can just simply return the type, right? And then we're going to make one that actually it's a print function that'll work with anything. So let's go ahead and make the print one first, because this one is going to be the easier one to understand. So we're going to go void print, and we're going to make sure this is static because it's a member of this class, and we need to make sure that there's only going to be one of these. So this class is, regardless, if you don't have that, it's probably going to break. So we're going to call it print, and we're going to go ahead and put this the less than greater than symbol. This is also known as a diamond operator, but you need to have this because you need to actually put T in here. T is the type parameter, so this is how we're going to identify what kind of type is going to be going into this method. So we're kind of just letting it know that, hey, this is going to be able to take in any kind of data type, but they're going to be specified when we call the method. So yeah, and then we're going to go ahead and put T and a little t. This is basically a placeholder. You could also call this, say, data. That's fine. We can call it data. That's a little bit more descriptive. And you're probably going to want to name your variables more descriptively than just T, right? But you can put a capital T and a little t here if you are just wanting to do that. But you're probably going to want a little bit, as always, you want to be more descriptive with your variables. You want to know what they actually are. So yeah, we'll stick with data. And that's pretty much it. So all you got to do from here is we're going to just go do a console.writeLine, and we're going to just simply print this data to the console. We'll just put data down just like that, and we're all good. From here, what we're going to do is we're going to make one more method, and this time we're not going to specify what kind of data is going to be passed into this. We're going to be using the T as the return type, which is going to be pretty cool. So we're going to go static T. We're going to just put get data. There we go. We'll do get data. We'll call it get data, right? We're going to put the diamond operator in, fill it in with the T operator. And here, all we're going to be doing is we're going to be saying T data, just like that. And then we're going to just return the data, just like that. And basically what this is doing is saying, hey, this method, the data that is being, that is being passed in here is the type parameter, and it's going to be specified when we call this function, right? So when we call the function, you're going to specify what kind of method is going to be generated, and then it's going to return whatever data you passed into it. So we'll go ahead and do that real quick. We're going to have two console.writeLine statements. We're going to use one passing in we're going to use our print function here. So we're going to call it print. We're going to need to specify what kind of data is going into it. So we're going to say an int here. And we're going to put 5. We'll do one more print. Not console.writeLine. We want to do one more print function. Print. We're going to specify that this one is going to be a string. And we're going to put hello world. Just like that. And we'll go ahead and now call our getData function. So we're going to do a console.writeLine. And we're going to call the getData getData. We're going to go ahead and specify what we're going to be passing. We're going to pass an int. And we're going to pass in 5. And that's pretty much what we're going to do here. We're going to do another one, and we're going to include hello world here. It already kind of assumed that I wanted to put a string into it. Thank you, Wishlist. That's probably not going to happen for you, but that was helpful. Make it go a lot faster here. And here, as you can see, we have a couple of lines of code here that are going to be console.writeLine, and it's going to be just simply calling this method. We're passing this method into the console.writeLine, and then it's just going to get the data from this. It's going to return a 5 and a hello world, and here we're going to be just printing a 5 and a hello world, and that's pretty much it. So, but as you can see, this is a T method. So it's not a void method, it's not an int method, it's not a float method, it's a T method. But when we specify here what it's going to be, so when this method is called, it's going to generate the method in whatever type we want. So it's going to generate an int method, and it's going to take in a 5. Same thing with the string. It's going to make a string method, and it's going to take a string, which is pretty cool. We're going to go ahead and run this code. And as you can see here, we got 5 and hello world. Just like that. No big deal. We got both. And that's how they work. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make a class. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of these real quick so we can put one of them in a class. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to get rid of this code real quick. We're not going to need it anymore. Get rid of these excess lines here. We're going to go over to here to our tutorial series, project. We're going to hit add, new item. And again, we're going to choose a class. And we're going to call this generic class. We're going to call it my generic class. This is a horrible name for a class. If you are going to be naming a class, make sure that it actually has a name that has value to you. This is something I can't stress enough, but you have to name your stuff to actually have meaningful names. This is a horrible name, and if you were using this in an actual project, you would not know what it does. So yeah, make sure you name your classes accordingly. We're going to get rid of this internal line, and we're going to make this public. Make this a public static class, because there's only going to be one of them. And we are going to make sure we identify that it is T. Adding this little thing here tells it that, hey, this class is going to contain generic functions, and we're going to make a few. So we're going to add our print function here again. So we're going to go void print like that. We're going to put T, and we're going to call it data. And not do that. I meant to hit the curly brace. And we're going to go ahead and do console.writeLine. And we're going to just output the data. Since this is a static class, you have to remember that with all the methods that are in there, they must be static as well. Keep that in mind when you are using a static class. This must be static. So yeah, just make sure that this is static. Also, saying that this is public is basically allowing just everything in the class to be available. So that's why I did this here, but under normal circumstances, you would not do that. You would do something like this. You would just simply have a static class, and you'd have a public static void. This is the proper way to do it, so this is the way that we're going to do it, actually. So yeah, that's pretty much it from here. This is all we have to do. Here, if you notice, we don't have to have the diamond operator with the T there. You could do that, but you're going to get a little warning here saying, hey, this has already been, this is the same type parameter. You're basically already saying that, hey, this is already generic. This already can do generic, so we're fine. We don't need that here. So you actually don't need that here, which is nice about putting your generics, making a genericable class. That's quite nice. You don't have to actually worry about that. But when we go back to our program, the syntax is going to be a bit different. So I'm going to quickly make the void function again here so I can point out the differences between the two ways of doing this. So we're going to go ahead and make this very same function here. I want to make sure that this is static. As you can see, this is the very same function as in the other one, but the way that we're going to be calling this is going to be a bit different here. So for the one where you're just working with it like this, which more often than not is probably not going to be the case if you're working on an actual project unless you're working within a single method or a single class. But more often than not, it's not going to be like this in the way that I'm going to show you here when you call print. Right, more often than not, you're not going to be identifying it this way. Most likely your generic methods are going to be in a separate class, and the syntax is a bit different. So when we call my generic class dot print, and we're going to pass in a 5 here, you're probably wondering, wait, okay, so on the other one, you're probably going to take a guess that, hey, we're going to put our diamond operator there. But this is actually wrong. Since our class is a generic class, we have to include it up front here, telling the class what kind of data is going to be passed in here. So it has to be specified this way. We have to identify what type it is going to be in here. So we can't do T, obviously, because that's not a type, but we're going to have to put in our int here. So we're basically telling this class, be like, hey, we are going to be taking in an int, and it's going to use that. And all the methods that are within that class are going to work with ints now, depending on what data you pass into that class, right? So our print function is going to work this way. This syntax is slightly different than this. In the case that you're working within just one generic method like this, within a single class, you can do this. And if it's going to be the only generic method in that class, this is how you would declare it. If you're working with a generic class, this is how you're going to declare it. Minorly different. In this case, you're including the type parameter. You're specifying the type before calling the method. In this case, you're specifying it while you're calling the method when you're typing it out. Just that's the main difference. And they both work. As you can see, we got 52 and 5. Just exactly what I passed in. Hey guys, Editing Chandler here. I forgot to mention something that's kind of key in this entire tutorial. So let's hop back into Visual Studio real quick and I'll show you it real quick. You could actually do generics with multiple data types being passed into one method or class. The way you can do this is you basically say I want my print function to contain 2 functions, right? Or 2 data types being passed into it, say like an int or a string or a float and int or whatever. You can do that. We're going to go ahead and make another print method here. We're going to call it print2. And we're going to specify T and G. And go ahead and go T data 1 and G data 2, just like that. I forgot comma here, my bad. And you can do this, and if we do our and we can actually do a console.writeLine and data 1 plus we're gonna go ahead and space it out here, and data 2. And we can go ahead and call this with a print2 with an int separated by a comma with a string, and pass in a 5 and a hello world. And just like that, you can do generics with a single method, having two different data types being able to be passed into it. This can be any data type. Just like before, we can do an int and a float, or an int and a double, or a double and a string, whatever combination. And you can do this with 3, 4, 5, 6 different data types if your method requires it. So yeah, I just thought I'd mention that you can do it with multiple data types in one thing. All right, back to the video. Sorry about that. But within many of the standard data structures that are within C#, they are generics. They contain generics in them, because you have to be able to specify that they have to be able to work with any kind of type. So just do note that. And if you are making any of your own data structures, they are probably gonna need to be genericable, unless you are only working with one kind of data. But if you want to work with all kinds of data, it's gonna need to be a genericable class or method. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. If you liked the video, leave a like, comment. If you have any questions or anything like that, I'll try to get to them as best as I can. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Hope you have a great day, and peace out.